On between Republican Congressman Ted Yoho of Florida, and Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York. Now, it started after Yoho reportedly accosted Ocasio-Cortez and called her, quote, disgusting, among other things. Things then spilled over onto the House floor.
I was minding my own business, walking up the steps, and Representative Yoho put his finger in my face. He called me disgusting. He called me crazy. He called me out of my mind. And he called me dangerous. And in front of reporters, Representative Yoho called me, and I quote, a bitch. These are the words that Representative Yoho levied against a congresswoman.
I rise to apologize for the abrupt manner of the conversation I had with my colleague from New York. The offensive name-calling words attributed to me by the press were never spoken to my colleagues, and if they were construed that way, I apologize for their misunderstanding. I cannot apologize for my passion or for loving my God, my family, and my country.
Joining me now is the Assistant Dean of the LBJ School of Public Affairs at the University of Texas, Victoria DeFrancesco Soto, also an MSNBC contributor. That apology right there, what does what he allegedly said to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez have to do with loving his God and loving his family?
Alex, I truthfully have no idea. But what I do know is that AOC's speech is one for the history books. When I saw this speech, I could not move for the entirety of the 10 minutes. I was captivated. And Alex, you know, as I'm looking at the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, you know, this is in the background. I'm preparing my classes. I'm preparing talks that I'm giving where we're commemorating the 100 years that women in this country had the right to vote. We see that even though we have come a long way, many things have not changed. And AOC, along with other women in a variety of representative bodies, are highlighting how we are still fighting that fight, how we have to have that descriptive representation in order to break down that institutionalized misogyny.
Yeah, it was remarkable. I agree. A very powerful 10 minutes, and it's been pretty widely applauded from all corners. That said, there was a response on Twitter by the Congresswoman in response to his apology. And, you know, it seemed that the apologize for something he said was misinterpreted, saying that he never said anything. How can that be when reporters clearly heard something that was offensive?
Well, I mean, he's digging in his heels that he did not say those things because, I mean, Republican, Democrat, I think we can all agree it's a bipartisan issue that those were horrible things that were said. And he wants to distance himself for that once that the spotlight was put on. So I think that is the issue there. But this has gone much beyond this kerfuffle between the two. I think what it has done is magnified the moment we're in because, Alex, this is on the heels of the Me Too movement. This is on the heels of Donald Trump's comments, you know, about grabbing women by certain parts. So this is just highlighting that this is not just Representative Yoho. This is much larger, and this is a much larger struggle that we're dealing with. So I think that's the take-home, not the trying to apologize, not apologizing. I said this, I meant this. It's a much bigger picture.
Well, look, as I said, and you perfectly well articulated, she's gotten a lot of support for her response to the apology from the congressman. And she says that while she was not hurt or deeply offended by it all, she's taking a stance for other women, specifically as it relates to one part of the congressman's apology. Take a listen to this.
Having been married for 45 years with 2 daughters, I'm very cognizant of my language.
What I do have issue with is using women, our wives and daughters, as shields and excuses for poor behavior. Mr. Yoho mentioned that he has a wife and 2 daughters. I am 2 years younger than Mr. Yoho's youngest daughter. I am someone's daughter, too. Having a daughter does not make a man decent. Having a wife does not make a decent man.
What'd you think of that?
so needed to call that out, because for so long, Alex, we have seen that excuse of, well, I'm married, I love my mother, I love my daughters, used it as a shield. But what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did is she called it out for what it is, a sheer negligee, trying to cover up what is actually there and saying, you can no longer stand on this. You need to confront what was done and no longer fall back on this. And the fact that we have a woman, that women are increasingly at the table. We've had a record number of women run and win elected office. We still have a long ways to go, means that we can hear this, because a man couldn't have said this. I doubt Representative Yoho would have said this to a fellow Congress member who is a male. It's because we have women in the chamber and more women who can give voice to this.
And women in power, and we've heard Nancy Pelosi say that she's experienced the same kind of discrimination, if you will, and rather disgusting epithets thrown her way. But anyway, Victoria DeFrancesco Soto, only good stuff from me to you. Thank you so much for joining us. And